Well, they were building the airport right in the middle of the largest concentration of wintering waterfowl in North America, particularly geese. It is not a place that you should select to build an airport, okay? But the deal had been put together by the landowners and developers, and they had sold the city at 4 times market rate. They sold it at more than $4,000 an acre, and out there you could buy land for $1,000 an acre or less anywhere. And they had the city totally boxed in. It was a trapezoidal site, and it had an entranceway, I think, at most 100 yards wide. And then, of course, these same people that sold the city the land owned all the land around it. And that's where they were going to make their killing. They were going to repeat the Johnson Space Center all over again. And so I got a call asking if I'd come to a meeting. So I went to a meeting, and we talked about doing some airport studies, and I told them my qualifications for doing this, and I made very sure that they understood that I was the same Bob McFarlane that had opposed the city in the Wallisville issue, and they did. And I was hired. I was surprised, but I was hired. So I said, okay. So we went out there one day in November of 1987. The prime contractor and the city's representative, and we went to the airport site. And this was the first time I'd been out there. So here we are standing on the future runway of the airport site. And the guy said, that from the airport department said, "Now see, there are no birds out here." And I said, "Stop. Be quiet and listen. Can you hear that murmur on the wind and the coming from somewhere around here?" I said, "That murmur is geese. Now, I don't know where they are or how far away they are, but that sound that we're hearing is the murmur of geese on the ground." It wasn't 5 minutes later, while we were still at the runway, a shotgun went off and 10,000 birds hit the sky. It was spectacular. All around that airport site. And so I said, "There's your problem. You have got to have some solid numbers." Okay? So I started collecting data. And I would go out there. I found a spot on the airport that I could drive to. And from that spot, being flat terrain, I could see the entire airport site, and there were some tall landmarks on the horizon, so I could tell distances from where I was. And I knew that I could see the entire airport site. And I simply started counting geese. And I'd get out there before dawn and count birds until noontime, or I would go out just before noon and count birds until dark. And so I did that for a number of weeks. And we had a big technical advisory board for the project, when the Parks and Wildlife people were there, and Fish and Wildlife Service people were there, and the State Department of Aviation were there, and had this board, and we were interacting, and we're going to do this right. So then my numbers start coming up, and I found there were 427 geese per hour, I think it was, average, flying over that airport site, and a larger number flying around the periphery.